So it has been about 2 weeks since my last Anthem video, not because, I really dislike the game and I don't want to cover it anymore. To be honest, I haven't really been playing since the last video, up until yesterday, but mostly because there just isn't much to talk about. And that's been the case. BioWare have had their head downs trying to fix the game. Of course, the Kotaku stuff came out, but I was away at that point, so I never really got to cover it. But there's a lot to talk about that I want to leave in this video, but I first want to go over the news. But I did want to start off by saying I still enjoy making videos of Anthem. More so than actually playing the game, I still like making Anthem videos. Because whilst the game isn't in a great spot, it is quite fun to talk about. The controversies and the future of the game are so up in the air. I'm more curious now than anything, but with that said, I do want to go over this new patch that came out yesterday, but really the connotations around April's patch, the big April update that's coming out, and the fact that it could be actually really big in terms of the content that it has in it. My name is Ryan Central. For more Anthem content, you can subscribe to the channel. I have been doing a lot of Borderlands 3 stuff too, and with any luck I'll have some good news about that fairly soon. But we did get a new patch yesterday. It was hotfixed in. It was about 8 lines long, it's about a paragraph, but there were 3 main changes in there that I wanted to highlight. Fixed an issue that was causing loot to drop for javelins other than the one being used. Fixed an issue that was causing Elysian caches to not appear until completing another activity or restarting the game. And fixed an issue that was causing Ursics and Titans to not spawn as frequently in free play. The final 2 are nice, but they're not major, but the first one was the reason why I stopped playing in the first place. As somebody that's been trying to gear up all of my javelins to a certain level, trying to get all of the Masterwork components and abilities and weapons, just, see which are good, which are bad, it made gearing up my Storm, for example, horrible, because I would do the legendary contracts, I would get a guaranteed Masterwork at the end of it, but it would be for a Colossus or a Ranger and Interceptor, which for me are fully geared. So it just made the whole idea of being able to gear up characters that you want to gear up completely pointless. It was the only form of control that you had in the game in terms of, I want to gear up my Storm, so I'm going to run Strongholds and contracts to get guaranteed Masterworks at the end that I know what they're going to be. So it's nice that it's fixed. I played it a lot yesterday and was able to get gear that I hadn't been able to get before. Like, it is a bug. I'm glad that it's fixed, and I hope that BioWare understand that people want to specifically chase gear instead of just hoping that RNG is on their side. Because not only do you need RNG for Masterworks and Legendaries to drop, but they need to be gear and abilities that you want, and then also to have good stats, which again, makes the whole process horrible for gearing up. Really surprised they haven't turned on the loot faucet yet, but my genuine theory is that loot is going to have a huge overhaul within the next few months. I'd put money on it if I was a betting man. I think the loot system is staying the way that it is currently because it's going to get a huge overhaul in the future. It has to for Anthem to survive. But regardless, we do know that there's another big patch on its way, and we know that from a tweet that came from Jesse Anderson. This tweet came out last week. I've seen some people asking if there's going to be an Anthem livestream today, and the answer is no. We're working on when exactly the next livestream will be to show the new content coming in our big April update. Jesse was asked for the timeline. He says, I don't have an exact timeline for it, but it's safe to say it'll be in the second half of April. We'll have a small update as well that fixes some bugs. Once the dates get closer, we'll share them. The middle part of April would be next Wednesday. And considering it's Tuesday now and we haven't heard anything about a live stream, would suggest to me that it's not going to be tomorrow either. One would assume that the next live stream would be next Wednesday on the 17th, with a patch following either on the Friday or the Monday, Tuesday afterwards. So the 22nd, 23rd kind of time. The reason why I feel that this is important to mention, not only is it too far away, there needs to be more regular patches, but looking at the roadmap, which even with all of the problems that Anthem has had, they've done their best to abide by what they said they were. They're still putting out the content on there. It's not as if they've removed stuff off that roadmap. But this is all of the content that's meant to be coming in April. But from the sounds of it, as Jesse's saying, there's only going to be one major patch. Ergo, all of this stuff, barring the events, because A, they're pointless, and B, they can come out at random points, all of this will be in the next patch. This new content would include the Mastery system, the Sunken Stronghold, the weekly Stronghold challenges, new Masterwork items, guilds, leaderboards, and legendary missions phase 2. We'll start with the Mastery system because I think that this is the most important. Anthem's in this weird, awkward middle ground between a looter-shooter and an ARPG. It's both and neither at the same time, but it's more of a looter-shooter than an ARPG, that's for sure. The difference being, ARPGs like Diablo and Path of Exile, their key way to get audiences to play them isn't to do with their content. The replayability is doing the same thing over and over again. You were just running around and killing everything in Diablo and Path of Exile, but the replayability and the time sink that's in those games is due to the builds that you can run, the actual depth that you have playing these two games in particular. Anthem doesn't have any of that. It doesn't have any depth, it doesn't really have any builds, it all comes across as gimmicky, and none of them are really rewarding to play in my opinion. But looter shooters, for the most part, other than Anthem, have more forms of content that you can do. Division 2 has so much that you can do, even Destiny has more than Anthem at this point. So this mastery system I think could do a lot. If it actually adds some more depth to the game in a meaningful way, the mastery system can help keep people interested and make actual builds for the game, which is incredibly important, I think. But I do have a sense that this is just going to be really mundane, arbitrary stats, and it might not be that meaningful. But I think there's a lot of emphasis going on to this in particular that makes a mastery system incredibly important. The sunken Stronghold goes without saying, it's a new Stronghold, it should be fun, but if the loot system isn't improved in any meaningful fashion, it's just going to quickly get boring, I do think. Weekly Stronghold challenges, again, will add to replayability. I think it's going to be an important aspect, but I don't think it's necessarily going to bring players back in a meaningful way like the mastery system or the Stronghold would do. But another major thing is the new Masterwork items, or just new rewards that you can get in the game. A few of these weapons were data mined, and also a few Masterwork support components, but not all of them. With any luck, it's more than that. It was about half a dozen things as you've seen on screen, but it's a step in the right direction. I just hope that they add more gear and ways to get it. I feel if it's going to get thrown in with random RNG, it's not going to be fun to try and chase this new gear. Guilds and leaderboards don't matter if people are not playing the game, to be honest. I think guilds would be nice. It'd be nice to actually have that kind of social system in the game. But again, I don't know. It just feels a bit awkward at this point. Even the alliance system at this point just feels a little bit awkward, you know. And legendary missions, phase 2, more of the same. Hopefully they give you the ability to skip cutscenes because it's just dumb that they haven't done that already. You get the point, there's quite a lot of stuff there. But generally, if all of this stuff came in one patch, that would be huge for the game. Some of the stuff is more important than others, sure. But if BioWare want to keep to this roadmap in some meaningful fashion, and it really only means that there's going to be a chance for one patch to hit in April without going into May, so one would assume that this next update will have a lot in it. And like Jesse says, content coming in our big April update. There's no mention of changes to loot in here, which could also be a big factor, but you get the idea. I'm still feeling quite promising about this patch in particular, but I've been disappointed by Anthem a few times already, you know. This would just add to that list if not. But at the end of this video, with all of the Kotaku stuff that's come out in particular on how Anthem went wrong, there are two things that spring to mind that Anthem needs that I want to finish this video with. The first is a PTR. Players feel that they're playing a game and just testing for BioWare when it comes to new stuff coming out. They play it, lots of stuff goes wrong, and they're left frustrated, of course. So I think to alleviate that, BioWare should be more open about showing us content in the way of a practice test realm, or a PTR. When new changes come out, you can try them out, report any bugs that you run into. It's generally a testing phase, but it also gives people incentive to play on the PTR to try out new stuff. Like in Overwatch, it's a new hero, it's a new patch. All of that is tested before it goes to live, which I think is a pretty big problem that the game has been suffering from. A new patch comes out and it's unstable. There's problems with it, and it frustrates the audience to no end, which can all be alleviated by testing at a much bigger scale in the form of a PTR. But the second thing is this.
Greetings everyone, this is Jeff from the Overwatch team.
For those who don't know, this is Jeff Kaplan. He is the main game director of Overwatch and has become a cult hero in that community. Overwatch has had its fair share of problems. It's had a lot of debates between the developers and the community on several different occasions. But the main thing is that Jeff Kaplan comes across as the voice of Overwatch, the developers. He knows everything about the game. He is privy to every sort of debate and conversation at the moment. You can have a conversation with him about the state of the game, and it feels that you're talking to the head honcho that will take that feedback on board or tell you why they're doing things in a certain way. Anthem doesn't have this. Instead, they have two producers, an executive producer, and a game director, which I might add has not said anything on Twitter or anywhere publicly in just around a month. I can totally understand BioWare being silent on this occasion, but if there's one person that shouldn't be silent, that should be trying to talk to the community a little bit more and be a bit more forward-facing, it should have been John Warner. And that's kind of the problem that I find with Anthem. Of course, a big thing on the Kotaku article was the lead developers or the head honchos not really having a direction and not being able to come to an agreement. Because it's more of a council than one person that's kind of calling the shots. Matt Darrah had to step in to try and salvage Anthem in some capacity, but it seems that time is over for him, so he's going to move on and maybe work on Dragon Age 4 or do whatever. That would make more sense for him. Mike Gamble, I'm not sure what he's doing at the moment. It seems that there's a lot of focus on Ben Irving, who of course is the main producer for Anthem when it comes to BioWare Austin, so it's kind of under his reins. The live service part of the game is now under his control. And he is stepping forward, he is getting a lot of the community very angry at him, but at least he's, standing up and trying to give some form of direction. But John Warner, especially as the game director, I just was hoping to hear more from him and him to be more involved. So the two things that Anthem need, in my opinion, are PTR and just a game director, somebody that's standing up, being the face of the developers, being the one doing developer updates, talking on forums, whatever. He doesn't need to respond to everything, of course, but I guess I'm just a little bit disappointed that nobody's really standing up and trying to take control of this. The game feels that it has no direction, and I think that this is a good reason as to why. Too many cooks, perhaps, but also Ben Irving and Mike Gamble are producers. Their job is to sort of take control and oversee things. They're not developers, they're not game directors, so their knowledge in certain areas might be quite small. Jeff Kaplan worked on World of Warcraft before anything else. He is a game developer, he knows how to make games, So having him at the top of Overwatch makes sense. He understands the community, the state of the game and how it looks overall, but most importantly, he knows how to make that game and understands those decisions, which is maybe an area that Ben and Mike Gamble don't really understand. But I don't really want to ramble on for this too long, but I think that they're the two main areas that are lacking. The ability to actually legitimately test in a place where players want to help and test a game, but also a lead director with a leading direction. But that's everything that I wanted to go over today. Yesterday's patch was okay. I played it for a couple of hours and it was fine, but it's not going to bring any of you guys back, I don't think. This next patch in April, though, might be the first of the big updates that may hit the game. Fingers crossed with any luck. Thanks for watching, thanks for all of your support, and until next time, take care, and I'll see you then.